It's all about doing good together. Mm-hmm. And what the platform allows you to do is demonstrate to your customers, internally and externally, the impact you're having on the environment and on people.
Hi, and welcome to UmiCast, a podcast which is all about business and entrepreneurship. And it'll leave you with the ability to go ahead and do more within your own businesses. Today, you're going to meet Jim Holland, CEO and co-founder of Carma, an extraordinary business making an incredible difference, not just to people's lives, but also to our planet. We're going to shortly hear Jim's really incredible story in terms of his own personal career and how he became to be leading a B Corp certified business in the UK, making such an amazing difference. So, hi Jim, thanks ever so much for joining us today. Absolutely delighted that you can be here with us at Umi.
Yeah, wonderful to be here, Nikki. Thanks for the invite. I had a great trip up this morning.
I'm pleased to hear it, and I understand you've got a pork dinner waiting for you.
Yes,
on return this evening.
Absolutely. Dad's cooking twice cooked pork. So once cooked pork is not enough.
Right, twice cooked is the important feature. Excellent. Well, listen, what we'd like to do is just hear a little bit more about what sounds an absolutely amazing journey to set up Carma. Which I'm not going to steal your thunder. You can tell us a little bit more about in a moment. But first of all, will you tell us how you came from being in the Navy for 13 years to then setting up what is a company that's creating tremendous impact, not just environmentally, but to people's lives? Will you just talk us through what on earth, how that happened?
Absolutely, Nikki. So I've got a great story to tell you about, and it starts in Barnsley in South Yorkshire. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Barnsley.
I have indeed.
Yeah, so I maintain to this day that the best decision I ever made was leaving Barnsley when I was 17 and joining the Royal Navy. I'd finished school. I'd got 3 rubbish GCSEs. I hadn't really applied myself at school. I was a little bit disenchanted by it all. It was the end of the miners' strike. There was such a lack of opportunity. 75% male unemployment.
Wow.
I'd had the odd job in the bacon slicing factory. And I got jobs.
Still got your fingers intact?
I've still got my finger. I was very good at it, actually. Very good at it. And decided to leave. I got accepted for the Royal Navy and I jumped on a train down to Plymouth on the 2nd of October 1989 and
wow.
had a wonderful career. 13 years as a weapons engineering artificer. I left the Navy, I'd done a HND in electronic engineering. I got a degree in computing. I played an inordinate amount of sport, predominantly rugby union, but I excelled at rugby league because I didn't have to pass the ball as much. It was a joy, but you had to be a lot fitter to play rugby league.
Yeah.
Travelled the world. I was in the first Gulf War and everything was going great guns, and then I got injured playing rugby.
Of all things.
Of all
Crikey.
things. Yes, of all things to get injured by playing rugby. And unfortunately I couldn't go back to sea because I couldn't go back to sea.
Wow.
I couldn't get promoted, so there was no place for me in the Royal Navy. So sadly...
Blimey, that must have been a heck of a point in life.
It was a heck of a point because in the forces everything's mapped out.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that came to quite an abrupt end.
And one which you were thriving in by the sounds of things previously.
I loved it.
Right.
I loved it. Just being with like-minded people every single day. And all of a sudden, that was it. It was over.
Wow.
I sold my house on the south coast. I made the worst decision of my life and I moved back to Barnsley.
Poor old Barnsley. I'm sure it's not quite the picture you're painting.
No, I mean, Barnsley's a lovely town and with lovely people, but the lack of opportunity. And I'd always been quite ambitious. And I went back to Barnsley. And what I hadn't realised, and on reflection, I worked it out, is that when you leave the armed forces, you lose 3 things overnight. Your forces family, your purpose, and your identity. And if you don't very quickly compensate for all those 3 things, you can start to slide downhill pretty quickly. And I always say that you're a product of your environment. And I'd gone back to Barnsley. My friends were great, but there was still a lack of opportunity. And I just thought I'd have the whole world at my feet. I got all these qualifications, a breadth of people, personal experience and world experience. But I couldn't find a job in a big organisation, which I was missing the Navy. quintessential.
So that was an important piece of the transition, was it? Moving into a large organisation still?
It was, yeah.
Right.
And what I didn't realise at the time, I needed purpose.
Right.
And I bought a town centre pub in Barnsley Town Centre.
Wow.
It was a big concern. 4 DJs, 6 doormen, 22 bar staff.
Blimey.
Yeah, year 1 was good. We made a profit. Turnover was massive, but the profit was small. Year 2, it got took over by another brewery. I was a tenant. They put the rent up, and my margins were more than squeezed, and I lost a fortune. And I had to sell the pub.
Wow.
And I still
Tough lesson.
It was a toy. It would have been cheaper going to the London School of Economics and paying London rent and rates for 2 years than that pub in Barnsley. But it really taught me some important lessons about value. And
in what way? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, after that, I used to walk into a pub and think, right, you've got 4 bar staff on, you've got 12 customers, they've got to be drinking 4 pints an hour to actually turn a profit here. Little things like that. And running a small business, a multifaceted business like a pub, it's not just a case of pulling pints, it's not just a case of getting the meals ready. You've got to do the marketing, you've got to do the finances, you've got to make sure the stock's up to speed. And it got really bad, Barnsley Town Centre. My cousin jokingly said, he said, what you need is a sign outside that says, customers required, apply within. Because the town centre just went dead. The footfall was atrocious.
Yeah.
And town centre dynamics change over the years.
Yeah.
So there was a certain route that everyone used to drink on.
Right, okay.
All of a sudden that changed and we were missing all the footfall. So, yeah, year 2 was really tough, but we made the right decision, liquidated the business, preserved my own personal integrity as a company director, did the right thing and got out there and settled my debts with my creditors, which was a great thing to do.
Yeah, and credit to you, because it is tough to wind a business up, isn't it? And to do it in the responsible way actually is even tougher. So I'm sure there's some lessons in that process that you can share with people. But let's stick with the journey for now. Where next?
So where next? I struggled again. There was still no jobs. I was odd jobbing. A friend of mine owned a construction company. He said, "Look, I need a hand roofing."
Right.
So I was doing a couple of roofing jobs with him. I got all these qualifications. There I was humping tiles up ladders. And I was in the back of these guys' car one day, and one of my old shipmates rang me up. He was a boss of mine, a guy called Steve McCann. He said, "How are you getting on, Dutchie?" Which was my naval nickname. I said, "I'll be honest with you, Steve, I'm struggling." He said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I'm really struggling. I can't get meaningful employment. I'm not paying my mortgage. My mental health's not really good. I'm drinking too much." He said, "Crikey," he said, "you were the best qualified out of all of us. I thought you'd be flying." I said, "Well, I'm really struggling." He said, "What time are you due home?" I said, "About 3 o'clock." He said, "I'll ring you back at 3 o'clock. So the guys, I got home 3 o'clock that afternoon, and the phone rang. It was Steve again. He said, "Look, I've just spoke to my boss." He said, "He's looking for a Unix engineer. Send me a CV, do a little bit of research, and I'll get him to give you a call." So I jumped on my computer, sent him my CV, gets on Google. 10 minutes later, the phone rings. Number I didn't recognise. "Hello?" "Oh, it's Mike O'Connor from Vodafone. Steve McCann's just sent me a CV. Looks brilliant, Jim." He said, "I'm looking for a Unix engineer. What do you know about Unix?" I said, "Hand on heart, Mike, I've just Googled it. There's 48 commands. There's 48 commands. How hard can it be?" And he started laughing. He went, "I wasn't expecting that, Jim."
Yeah.
It's a brilliant answer. "Can you come for an interview?" Well, this was Tuesday. Thursday, I'm down in Newbury. I had this wonderful interview with this guy, and he said, "Look, all right, you haven't got Unix experience, but you've got a wealth of experience. You've got character. I think you'd fit well in the team." So he offered me a job. 3 weeks later, September 2006, I rocked up at Vodafone. And Nikki, that was my resettlement. Massive company.
Right. Gave you that kind of structure, family, son. Right, got it.
Clear mission, clear vision, clear values. And I loved it. It was like working on a university campus. There's 5,000 people all working together, just, doing the best they could for the customers, growing the business. And a couple of people complained. I'm like, wow, you don't know how lucky you are to work in an environment like this. It was wonderful. Started playing touch rugby again. And we did the corporate games. It was just a great place to work. And I loved it. I thrived. And I got asked by one of the managers in another team to come and work in his team as a promotion. And I remember having the conversation with Mike. I said, "Look, I've just been offered a better job in another team. He said, look, Jim, this was always going to be a stepping stone for you.
Wow.
Into the rest of Vodafone. And I shook his hand. I said, look, that's brilliant, thanks, Mike. And I still knew nothing about Unix 18 months later. But I'd got stuff done, Nikki. You know, and
sure.
I went above and beyond that role, and I networked with the wider teams, and it was all about asking the right people the right questions at the right time in the right way, as opposed to, everyone used to send emails. I'm like, go and speak to them.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, that today even people forget how important it is. You know, post-COVID and so on and so forth, where we were all so remote from one another, there does seem to be a resurgence of people starting to understand how important that human connection is again. So
absolutely.
Interesting that right back in Vodafone times, that was a key feature of what I suppose contributed to your success.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it makes a difference if you got that extra mile. I mean, coming up here to Durham today, it's great to come here and meet you and do this in person as opposed to be behind a camera and a screen.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So
now then, tell me again, the nickname was Dutchie. I'm just going to interrupt the journey for a moment because I'm intrigued to understand, where does Dutchie come from?
Well, my second name's Holland, Jim Holland, so Dutchie Holland.
Okay, got it. Should have clocked that, absolutely.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Clark, Nobby Clark.
Yeah.
It's just automatic.
Yeah,
You get a nickname. And I kept it throughout my naval career. So Vodafone.
Yeah, so you spent quite a lot of time at Vodafone, didn't you?
I spent 8 years there. It was my resettlement. And
right.
Funny, I didn't realise at the time when I joined Vodafone, I was going to flourish. I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. You know, sitting in the back of a transit van, going to roofing jobs every day, wasn't particularly floating my boat. And then flourished at Vodafone, met my wife, Sally there. We're now happily married.
Wow.
4 daughters later.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, they're a delight. We wanted 1 boy, we got 4 girls.
I was just about to say, that sounds like quite an achievement in itself.
Absolutely, yes. But the white flag came up after attempt number 4. But wonderful. I wouldn't change it for the world. I've got 2 dogs, Vic and Bob. So I've always wanted to knock around with Vic and Bob. And there we go. I had 6 different jobs at Vodafone. Loved it. Never thought I'd leave. I mean, I owe that company so much. And I got headhunted for a job at Sky. A friend of mine had gone to work there, and he said, "Look, there's a great job here. I've mentioned you, and they'd like to speak to you." And I went, didn't really want to leave, but it was a chunky role, head of quality and compliance. And
wow!
Yeah, I couldn't
say
it.
Indeed.
I couldn't say it at the time without smiling because there's 2 things I want, 2 words I want to associate with myself. One of them's quality and the other's compliance. But
yeah, it's different though when you're making up the rules, isn't it? I find
absolutely.
If they're your rules, it's easier to follow.
Correct. And at Vodafone, the role I was doing, I was sort of looking after all the fulfilment for the consumer channel. So I really understood the role I was moving into, and I saw the value in the move. And it's funny, I got asked to go for an interview, and I love Vodafone. I thought, well, I'll go and have a look. So I turned up at this interview. I hadn't done any prep whatsoever. And this guy...
There's a reoccurring theme here, Jim, to be fair, on the whole interview prep.
There is, isn't there?
I'm not sure that's the best advice to convey to people.
If you want the job, be ready. But if a chance drops in your lap, wing it, is what I would say.
Fair enough.
But I rocked up to Sky. I wanted to look around. I thought I might get to see a celebrity or whatever that looks like. And I sat with this guy for an interview for an hour, and he just completely inspired me. The way he conducted himself, the questions he asked, the feedback he gave me. And I'd done no prep whatsoever. And I drove down the M4 after, and I was like, I messed up there a little bit. He asked me all about Sky and their values and customer base, and I just hadn't done any prep. And the recruiter rang me up and said, "How do you think that went, Jim?" I said, "I'll be honest with you, Lewis, I made a bit of a mistake there." I said, "I didn't do any prep. It was really apparent in the interview. I've let myself down." I said, "But more importantly, I've let Keith down, and I think I've wasted an hour of his time, and I'd like you to feed that back to him." He said, "You're in luck, Jim." He said, "Keith thinks the same. He really enjoyed spending an hour with you. However, he'd like you to come back next week having done a bit of prep." and he gave me an exercise to do. And I was just really thankful for Keith for giving me that second chance. An absolute wonderful man. I really enjoyed working for him. And I rocked up there. It was my first 6-figure job. It was back in 2014. Sally was pregnant with daughter number 3, Elsie, at the time. And it meant that she could do the hardest job in the house and be a stay-at-home mum for the foreseeable future. So
so it became quite important at that point then.
It became really important, yeah. And I'd probably say it was Keith's fault that we had four girls.
Poor Keith.
Yeah, great guy. We're still in touch. And I loved Sky. I was head of quality and compliance for a year, and then I moved into the head of sales role for retail. Loved it.
That is a huge transition in terms of, style, skills, etc. Moving from a role where you're a custodian of processes and quality and so on and so forth into that front-facing sales role. It's so different. How on earth did you come to do that?
Well, ultimately, it's a leadership role. And one of the things that working in the sales and marketing group, we had all the channels in the sales and marketing group. So you've got online, you've got telesales, you've got retail. And I got to know all the directors and you could work out the nuances.
Right.
And the role came up for the head of sales in retail. And I grabbed it with both hands. I wanted a big leadership role on my CV. There was lots of people involved.
Sure.
And I thought I could make a difference just through being very colleague-centric. I can remember at Vodafone it was all about customer centricity.
Yeah.
I sort of thought there's a little bit of a nuance here. If you focus on giving your colleagues the right amount of training, the right equipment, and every opportunity to land the sale, you'll see the results. And it worked out really well.
Interesting. And then certainly over the years, the need to have happy people in your team has been has become really the key driver, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Over and above skill set and so on and so forth. If people are happy, then they're going to do a good job.
Absolutely.
So you clearly clocked that at quite an early stage.
Yeah.
So what next?
So next, one of my old bosses from Vodafone, actually, a great guy called Martin Jones, I had a conversation with him. He'd moved to a completely different industry. He'd become the commercial director at Stansted Airport. And he rang me up and he said, "Oh, Jim, there's a great job here for you at Stansted Airport, head of commercial." He said, "Look, you've got everything on your CV. You've got operations, you've got leadership. This is a big numbers role. You'll be looking after the P&L, you'll be looking after the margin. Essentially, your KPIs are every customer that comes through the airport, how much cash can you get out of their pockets?" So car parking, taxis, fast track,
it's a complicated business, an airport, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's very different from Vodafone and Sky because you don't own the customer. You've got no idea who's going to turn up. So you've got to cater for everyone, whether that's someone travelling on their own for business, whether it's a couple on a romantic break, or whether it's a family of 4 or 6 in my case, fleeing the country for a little bit of sun. And really good lesson. And of course, it was 2017 at the time. The airport was on a trajectory to go from 25 million passengers to 33 million passengers. I joined, I got stuck in, made a difference. Quite like the environment. Very, very different to what I was used to at Vodafone and Sky. A little bit of a harsher environment.
Yeah.
Because you didn't own the customer, you didn't know what to expect on a daily basis,
and
you weren't getting the feedback. So it was that customer feedback at the other two companies that helped us sort of shape what we needed to do to get it right from.
Yeah, because I guess it can be sort of quite transactional for people passing through an airport. You know, some people don't hang about; they just want to be in and out, and the slicker it is, the better. Which doesn't chime with the attempts to retain customers and customer loyalty and so on of some of those other brands.
Absolutely, and I'd come from a retention equals acquisition model in both brands. You're just going to get people coming through, and you're trying to increase the dwell time. So the longer they stay in the airport, the more money they'll spend.
Yeah.
So it was quite an interesting dynamic actually.
Interesting stuff, and a huge transition to an airport. So what comes next? What after Stansted?
Well, what came next was COVID. So 2020, we were moving 100,000 passengers a day, and then almost overnight we went down to 12. Not 12,000, but 12 passengers. And we got this £1 billion piece of infrastructure with 3 sheep and a shepherd in it. And there was literally nothing to do. And I was very quickly furloughed.
Right.
And then made redundant in September 2020. But for me, Nikki, furlough, I've got to say, was the best time of my life.
Right.
I'd been a little bit displaced from the family. I'd got a house up at the airport.
Oh, okay. So you were living across there a lot of the time.
Yeah, I was away 3 nights a week. We got got a young family, and all of a sudden I'm at home 7 days a week with the people I loved. We just got the first dog, Vic, and I loved it. Out walking every single day, spending time with the kids. The weather was wonderful, wasn't it? So
yeah, we were spoilt.
we were spoiled. I was in the garden, and just I'm a big reflector.
Right.
And I got a lot of time on my hands to think, right, what haven't I done? I've had such a wonderful and eclectic life, but what haven't I done that, no, I don't regret it, but I wish I'd devoted more time to it if I got the time. And then tragically, we lost a Royal Navy Rugby League teammate to suicide 13 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was awful. A guy, really close friend of mine, we did a 4-year apprenticeship together, we did field gun together, we played rugby together.
Oh, blimey.
And he was 2 months into his transition. And we got the shocking news. I didn't speak to any of my former teammates, but I went to the funeral. It's in Wigan, and lots of us had turned up, and it was a very well turned out funeral. Heartbreaking. I never stopped for the wake. I wish I had, but didn't do anything above and beyond that. And I realised that was gnawing away at me. So I got in touch with a couple of my old teammates, a guy called Neil Gay and a guy called Andy Steele, and they said, "Look, we've been thinking about forming a charitable association." All to do with rugby league. And I went, right, so let's get stuck in. We got a few other people, brought them along to the party, and we formed an association called In Touch, Royal Navy Rugby League. And In Touch is built on 3 pillars: reset, reconnect, relive.
Right.
The reset is all about helping people on that transition, identifying that they're going to be leaving the armed forces, they played rugby league, and just making sure they land on their own 2 feet in Civvy Street. Reconnect, just reaching out, talking to your old teammates, and relive. We get together once or twice a year, have a few beers and a meal, and remember how good or bad we were 26 years ago. And on that, it's been a wonderful thing to be involved in. It's opened up so many doors that we all thought were closed to us, you know, and it's connected us to the current Royal Navy Rugby League team as well. That they come to our dinner, they have their award ceremony, and
really, wow,
it's just brilliant to sort of feel you're a part of that community.
So, how many servicemen, women, ex-current, are involved in the charity?
We've probably got about 50 odd members, but the dinner, we have 120 people coming to it. We had, you're not going to believe this, we had a surprise guest at the last dinner. None other than Bobby Davro.
No way.
Yeah, I introduced him. I said, look, I've stood up, and there was only me and the guy who'd organised it in the entire room that knew he was coming in. And I said, look, I can't believe I'm saying this, guys, because I'm the MC. But we've got... Anyway, Bobby Davro came in, the whole place went up in the air. Absolutely brilliant. And it's we've helped 4 people out already. We've raised a lot of money. It's just wonderful to be part of that association. And
brilliant.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Long may it continue. But I guess the reason I'm telling you that is because the person I've reconnected with on that process is Andy Steele. Dr. Andrew Steele as he is now.
Yeah.
And Andy, he was a captain of the rugby league team that I played in. And when he left the Navy 18 years ago, he moved out to Bangkok.
Right.
And he started the Plant a Tree Today Foundation. And he's planted 3.5 million trees in 11 different countries.
Wow.
And I'm talking to him.
It's so difficult to kind of visualise that, isn't it? It's such an enormous number.
Huge number. I planted 1,000 trees yesterday in Hull, in the pouring rain with Clearwater International. A wonderful day, but 1,000 trees, but 3.5 million trees. It's just huge. And I mean, the guy, he's an inspiration. And I'm talking to him on this Zoom call. He's got blurred background. Everyone was doing it.
Yeah. During
COVID. And I'm like, so are you still in Bangkok? He said, no, I've moved. He said, I moved back from Bangkok to Hull. And I started laughing. I went, no one moves from Bangkok to Hull. So they only invented Hull to make Barnsley look like Las Vegas. And so I had to come home sometime. I'm from home, my mum's in Hull. I went, right, get it. So what are you doing? He said, well, I'm still planting trees. He said, I've formed a company that sits underneath the Green Task Force. Sorry, the Plant a Tree Today Foundation called the Green Task Force. Excuse me. He said, and what the Green Task Force is made up of veterans and service leavers. I'm like, all right, interesting. He said, Jim, you won't know this. He said, but 10% of people leaving the armed forces struggle to get employment. And he said, and out of the 90% that do, within 2 years, a further 15% need a hand up, not a hand out.
Wow.
And I said, that's interesting. Why do you think I wouldn't know that? And he said, well, you've done all right, Lofty.
Yeah, so he'd made that assumption that because where you were today or then,
I said, well, I might have done all right. I said, but 4 years, I was in the wilderness. He said, really? I said, yeah, I really struggled. I said, I could have gone one way or the other for me. He said, well, you're going to love this. He said, what the Green Task Force does, we provide positive pathways for veterans and service leavers through nature-based tasks. We plant trees, we clear woodlands, we do fencing, we do litter picking, anything that gets the boys and girls out and repurposes them and gets them talking. And said some of the guys have got PTSD and we treat them through nature-based therapy.
Wow.
Everyone as a bare minimum gets a vocational qualification in horticulture. Then we work with recruitment companies to get them back on the employment ladder. And I'm sat there and I went, mate, I said, that is brilliant. I said, that ticks every box for me. I said, how can I help? And he laughed and he said, well, you can't plant trees, Lofty. I was there when you got injured. You know why he calls me Lofty, don't you?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I wasn't thinking about planting trees, Andy. I said, how can I help you as a business? You know, I've got a vast amount of experience in corporates. How can I help you? He said, well, it's simple, really, Jim. The more trees we get, the more veterans we can help out. I'm like, right, I'm going to go away and form a business that gets you thousands of trees. And he laughed. I went, go on then. so I went away and I did a little bit of research, thinking, veterans, you got that social impact you're having, environment impact that you can make. Just did a little bit, and it was a no-brainer. There was definitely a gap in the market.
Yeah.
Because when you plant a tree, 3 wonderful things happen. 1, you employ someone to do it, so you've got that social impact, giving them a sense of well-being, purpose. Whether that's in Hull or Kenya, that still happens. Secondly, you get net biodiversity gain. And finally, over time, empirically, that tree absorbs carbon dioxide and breathes out oxygen. Some companies would argue, but that's what happens. So I came up with the idea of, we started off, we were called Rewards.Earth. We're now Carma with a C. It's short for Carbon Karma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're a digital platform that connects consumers and businesses to reforestation and afforestation projects all around the world. Yeah. And our product offering is threefold. You can come and have a corporate tree planting day with us and veterans. It's fully hosted, put 1,000 trees in, make real impact. You can sign up to one of our plans, whether that's a personal plan or a business plan, and we'll plant trees on your behalf every month. So you've got instant impact in terms of social and environmental. Then we've got a product called Tree Commerce. And Tree Commerce, you can plant a tree for every product or service you provide your clients to give back to people and planet. Right. Our trees, the overseas trees, 25p. So it's low cost, high impact, and it's all about doing good together. And what the platform allows you to do is demonstrate to your customers, internally and externally, the impact you're having on the environment and on people.
Wow. So tell us, let's just dive a little bit more into Carma then. Because in terms of how it works, so you literally set off with this ambition to find as many trees as possible, or to secure as many trees as possible. I'm sure you're not just going and finding them randomly, so that you could create more opportunities for service people, like service people.
Yes. So
you've invented this digital platform that creates that interaction and connection. But what's the commercial model behind it? How does it work? Because I assume that you have to make money. I assume you pay people yourself, etc. How does that work? Because it sounds absolutely phenomenal. But one of the things that I often get asked by people is, well, often kind of social enterprise or doing good means you make less profit and it's quite difficult and so on and so forth. So how's your business model working?
Well, we are a social enterprise. We're also a B Corp.
Right.
And the principles behind B Corp are people, planet, and profit. So we do make a profit. We're effectively, if you peel it right back to what it is, we're a digital aggregator of trees.
Right.
My friend calls me the...
It's the first time I've ever heard that strung as a sentence, but yeah.
Well, and my friend, he says, you are the Barnsley Lorax. You speak for the trees. And we make a margin. So the Green Task Force sell me a tree.
Yeah.
At a price, and we sell them on, but we've got that reach, we've got the brand, we've got the platform, and the same we plant overseas. Our challenge, we always get challenged. Oh, well, how do we know the trees have been planted? And I'm like, well, that's easy. I can walk you to every single tree that we've planted in the UK, because I've been there when we've planted them with the Green Task Force. Overseas, a little bit trickier. However, we just partnered with a company called Very Tree, which is, again, shortened for verified trees. So every tree they plant overseas in Kenya, the charity they work with, they give them smartphones. They give them smartphones for two smart reasons. First of all, to pay them in digital currency, so they know that the right people are getting the wages.
Oh, okay. So it gives them that traceability. And
Absolutely. And of course, because they've got a smartphone, you can track what they're doing. So they've got an app on there. So when they're out tree planting, you've got this digital footprint exactly where they've been. They're taking pictures, videos. So you've got real rich content.
Wow.
And it's all blockchain. So every single tree's got its own blockchain identity, so it can't be double sold.
Crikey.
Yeah, so it's got really technical, and that's what we're all about. We're building this business with integrity and credibility so that we can scale it.
So what, we'll talk about kind of the ambitions for the business and what next, but just want to understand a little more about what's been hard, what's been, or has it not? Has it just been an absolute breeze?
It's not been a breeze. I mean, running a startup is anything other than linear. The emotions you feel on any given day is just from abject horror to complete delight. What's been hard? The tech catching up with. So the company is co-founded between me and a guy called Ian Gurney.
Right.
Ian, he's Pinky and the brain. He's a brain. He does all the tech. This is his 5th startup. He's done very well, understands that environment. And I always sell more than what's ready.
Right.
But I know the tech's always playing catch up.
Going to catch up.
Yeah. And I said, look, if there's a market for it, we should build it. And then, look, works really well. And the tech's been difficult, but it's been built out right. We had an MVP, which is now moving away onto the next platform. We're building out other products and services. We've got a Shopify app so the customers can plug in, and every time they sell a product, you sell a tree for 25p, and we've seen that increase business and increase conversion. So the tech's been a challenge. We got investment at Christmas last year, which was interesting. We were wondering how to level up. And we went out and we sold to...
And how did you... Can I just ask a couple of questions about that?
Yeah.
Again, because this is something that people touch on quite a lot, that external investment, depending on what kind it is, doesn't necessarily align itself well to businesses with a social purpose or that view of the triple kind of bottom line as people describe it.
Yeah.
So how did you find securing investment?
Embarrassingly easy.
Wow.
Yeah, so we...
And why was that? What did you do? Share a little bit with listeners about how you approached that.
I was part of a community called Startup to Stand Up.
Right, yeah.
So I'd listened to all the nuances. I'd got my business ready. I'd got SEIS approval and EIS approval through HMRC. So I'd learned through the Startup to Stand Up group by a fantastic man, Sam Simpson, who every time he speaks, I listen because he talks nothing but sense and from a position of knowledge. And listening to him, I sort of worked out the nuances of fundraising and angel investment. And Ian had done it before, and we brought a deck together. We've got this great template, and we then, I'm part of a Heropreneurs network, so I got invited to go to Goldman Sachs down in London and in a real psychologically safe environment, but pitching with this deck. And of course, you've got some really fine minds in Goldman Sachs, ex-military who are in senior positions. And Ian and I stood there in front of this 50-foot screen that we're presenting on. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And they sat there and critiqued us. And we went back in and said, right, are you a B Corp? No. Why not?
Wow, so they actually asked you then.
It was brilliant. And Ian had been on my case. I mean, this was only a year and a half ago. And he said, we should be a B Corp, Came out of that room and went, yeah, all right, Ian.
You were sold.
Yeah, we need that rubber stamp. So we got a pitch deck. We got some great feedback. We knew we were uniquely placed in the marketplace. We looked at our competitors, what they were doing, what we were doing, the difference between our strengths, what we could build on with the investment. And we started pitching, and we sat down, and we wanted 4 investors. We were raising 250 grand. We spoke to one. He just sold his law firm. So he was a recovering lawyer, as I called him. And he's a tree hugger. He loved what we're doing. He said, look, I was thinking about buying some land to plant some trees to make an impact myself. He said, but what if I can help you guys, I'm just the impact I'm going to have is just going to be vast.
Yeah.
So we got the investment. He just said, right, look, I know you want four people round the table. He said, but it's not enough for me. 2.5%. He said, I'm going to give you the money. I won't be an headache. And Sam said, because Sam runs a platform called Founder Catalyst, which is it's like Seed Legals, but better for me. Because you get to speak to the people who do
it. It's not quite as impersonal.
Correct, yeah. And it was brilliant. And he just said, look, that's the fastest raise I've ever known. So we were like, shook hands on the deal, and I'm driving back from Chester because they all live in Chester, and I was like, yes, next morning I woke up like, wow, this has just got real. We've now got that plan. We've just presented to the investor. We've got 200 grand's worth of his money, and we've got to go and do it. So we embarked on this next journey, and the next part of the journey was employing people.
Wow. And so in terms of where the business is today, you secured B Corp when? How long ago was it you actually got your certification through?
2 months.
2 months ago.
We got a score of 128 with a high score in B Corp.
Crikey, that is a good score.
Yeah. I mean, the average business would score 50 to get the B Corp certificate.
80, I think it is, isn't it? 80
to pass.
That's right.
But if you were to do an average of all the businesses in the country, it would be 50.
Oh, right, okay.
But you need an 80 to get a pass mark, so that's what everyone attains. We bent the needle, got 128 because of all the land and wildlife conservation we do. We had to send them videos of me planting trees out in Hull. Excuse me. And we're really proud of the score. Really proud of the score. Like I said, we're the highest scoring B Corp in our sector in the UK. It's just been a whirlwind since March.
And why did Goldman Sachs ask you if you were a B Corp? Because again, some people perception is that B Corp is like just another certification. You know, it ticks a box to keep either people that you're selling to, large corporates, possibly happy that you've got a box ticked and you've got a certificate that sits in a frame. Why did Goldman Sachs ask you if you were a B Corp?
They were asking us the age-old credibility question. How are you going to prove that to people that you're planting the trees, you're doing what it says?
So they were looking for that actual proof.
Yeah, and he said, why aren't you a B Corp? He said, because B Corp, it demonstrates that you've demonstrated the highest levels of governance in your business, and that you're all about people and planet, environmental and social impact.
That's fantastic.
So it was a no-brainer for us. So we went and it was hard to do.
Yeah.
It was really hard to do, and getting all that evidence together. It was a big investment for the company. Is it paying off? Definitely. I would say so.
Good. And of course, you mentioned there that you've got a cracking score. You've come out the starting blocks running, which feels like it's a bit of a feature of your life. There's a bit of competition there. But B Corp has many more categories than just the environment, doesn't it? It's got 5 substantial categories altogether. So what about the other categories? Have you got to areas that you need to develop now as a consequence of being a B Corp? Will some get greater attention? How's that going to work? Or can you just rely on planting more trees?
Can't ever just repeat. You should never rest on your laurels. So where can you get better? So our people score was really good. So we've only got a small team. We actually got marked down for, despite having everyone gets a bonus, in the business, because we were a young business and everyone had just started, we couldn't demonstrate that we'd paid a bonus. I'm like, well, they've not been with us a year yet. We haven't had a chance to, so we lost points for that. Not certain what the other sections were, but we were scoring high in them all. I think the highest scoring B Corp in the UK is 160.
Yeah.
But we're on a journey. It was a good starter for 10, but the areas that we're weak, we know we've got to build on it, and we're dedicated to getting it right. It's all about.
Yeah, you can tell that in spades.
Yeah.
To pardon the pun. So you mentioned there you're looking to recruit more people and expand the business. Is that right?
Well, post investment, we knew we had to recruit, and we took quite a gutsy punt on our recruitment policy. We recruited 3 apprentices.
Wow.
And 3 candidates at middle management level. So that we wanted to grow more than just trees. We wanted to grow people.
Okay.
And we looked into apprenticeships, and it looked like a great talent pool. People get fixated by graduates, and we had graduate programs at Sky, at Vodafone, at Stansted Airport Group. Some great people coming through. But just going back, neither Ian nor I went to university. We thought, right, let's give people who are coming out of school, or maybe people who have had a false start, a second opportunity. And one of the people that works with us now, Natasha, she got a degree in photography, really super bright individual. She was wonderful. She was working behind the bar at Wetherspoons. Right. In Huddersfield.
Not using that skill.
and she was identified by this apprenticeship company, interviewed with us, just blew us away. Passion to succeed. And that was 9 months ago. Looking at her now, she's a completely different person. Her confidence levels are through the roof. Her output, her work ethic, her commitment is just second to none. She's an absolute joy. I mean, a real triumph for us as a business, but for her as an individual, what a great move.
And how are you transitioning from that sort of large corporate, big family, lots of structure into such a dynamic, fast-paced and, at the moment, smaller business? How are you making that transition? Because you told us at the beginning that structure and so on and the size was really important to you from a point of view of coming out of the Navy and making that transition. Is it because you've done that now, or...?
I've done it. I know myself a lot better now than what I did 20 years ago. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. I know what I want in life. I love, and this is what I'm building now is a legacy. I love giving back. I love helping people. I love having a clear purpose. My purpose, our North Star is social and environmental impact. So getting out of bed to make a difference, working with the entire leadership team of Clearwater International, one of the largest investment capital companies in the UK, the energy that they bring and just hosting a day with people like that. So my network is ever expanding and I just get so much from it. And, we're doing good. We're helping. There were six veterans out planting with us yesterday that wouldn't have had that work if we hadn't turned up and did what we did.
Absolutely phenomenal. So what next? If you look to the horizon, what's on the cards for Carma?
So, Carma, we want Carma to become a household name, and we've got a real high level of ambition with it within the company. We're going to move into the voluntary carbon market, but tree planting is going to be the core of our business. But invariably people say, well, we want to offset. And I'm like, well, we're not an offsetting company. Well, we want the certificate. So we're going to trade in carbon credits as well. Right. But we've come up with our little twist on that, which is called a Carma credit. Right. So you can plant a tree in the UK, employing a veteran or service leaver, and get a digital certificate for 1 tonne of CO2 for less than a tenner. Wow. So we're going to service all parts of the market. We're going to build the platform out. We're going to win a lot of customers over through the story. We've got a marketing campaign that's going to start this side of Christmas. We're going to raise again.
So, are you? You're going back out?
Yeah, we're going for a Series A just to build.
So you're going to move from the SEIS kind of angel investor schemes through into Series A?
Yeah. We've still got our EIS certificates valid. Right. So we're going to go and we're looking for to raise a couple of £1 million and really increase the marketing budget. We're going to become a digital first platform. So impact from the palm of your hand. You can plant trees. 4 buttons and you're there, and join one of our plans as a business. It's a great call on the way here this morning. Somebody just like, look, really want to get involved. How easy is it? And they're signed up already and making an impact. So that's what we want to do. We want to be an off-the-shelf ESG solution.
Brilliant. So it's that's probably somebody calling you now wanting to wanting to plant a tree. So in terms of what do you want to leave our listeners with today, Jim? I mean, how the story itself is just incredibly inspiring. I mean, I don't know how you've crammed so much into so few years in terms of your own personal journey, your career, the impact that you've had on people, not just latterly in terms of where you have really picked up that purpose-driven mantle, but clearly you've touched an awful lot of lives in the earlier stages of your career as well. But, as you know, for those people that have heard today and they've been inspired by that journey, and they really want to understand more about Carma and what you're doing and perhaps, you know, hopefully get involved, what do you want to say to them? Where do they need to go? Who do they contact?
Yeah, well, to get involved, I always say get involved. Just come online, www.carma, with a C, .earth. And it's very self-explanatory. You go on there, you can sign up to one of our impact plans, make a difference, get our monthly newsletter, see what we're doing with the Green Task Force, what we're doing out in Kenya with our wonderful partner Veritree, and make a difference.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thanks very much, Jim. It's been an absolute joy to spend a wee bit of time with you. And I really look forward to seeing what huge differences I'm sure you're going to make in the world around us in the years to come. Thanks very much.
Lovely. Thank you, Nikki.